are ghost guns legal?
Yeah, so that's our first question that we've gotten.
Yeah.
And, the answer is, generally speaking, now, of course, there are some states, and you probably know who you are, where unserialized, where 80% lowers are heavily regulated. I don't know of any state in which they are flat illegal, right? But, New Jersey could have done something overnight I'm unaware of. But it is, as a general matter, lawful and legal to purchase that 80% lower, to mill it out yourself, to have that unserialized firearm. Now, I say that with restrictions, obviously. I mean, I think there's a biggie that's actually in our 18 U.S.C. 922, right? Mm-hmm. Which is our Undetectable Firearms Act.
Yeah.
Do you want to get into that?
Yeah, 18 U.S.C. 922, I believe it's P. Yes, it's P. And that relates to undetectable firearms. These two things kind of get mixed together. Mm-hmm. And essentially what that law says is that you can't make a firearm or possess a firearm, transfer a firearm, sell a firearm that can't be detectable by a metal detector. They use that for airport security. I mean, those things, the security devices they have at airports now can detect all kinds of stuff, baseball cards even. So I don't know that it's as big of an issue as it used to be, but the Untraceable Firearms Act, I believe, of 1988, those two things kind of get conflated. And that's, if you're making a homemade gun, they don't want it made 100% out of polymers or plastics. Right. It needs to be detectable by a metal detector because that's a crime.
Yeah, and that's something that came up a lot when we were talking about Cody Wilson. We were talking about distributing the 3D printed firearm map, and people were saying, this should be a crime. And, we were saying, there's already a criminal offense out there for, if you could manage to create your own DIY firearm, your own, quote unquote ghost gun that was not detectable through metal detectors, that would already be an offense.
Right. And then the other point that we see coming up, so time and time again, and I think we have these kind of three categories for our homemade firearms, unserialized firearms, because some states criminalize just that. Not, you could maybe make a homemade firearm, but it has to be serialized. And then we have our third category that says no homemade firearms. It has to have a serial number. And we see that coming up in California with, I think they called it Assembly Bill 879. Mm-hmm. And they're regulating, what they are calling homemade firearms. They call them precursor parts.
Precursor parts, exactly.
And so, there's two kind of versions of this bill went out in California. One would ban all firearms parts, think triggers, really insignificant things.
What is going on in California?
Yeah, right.
We could do an entire live stream that was called "What is Going On in California."
I like a regular segment. But the final bill that ended up passing relates only to molds and casts and 80% lowers for handguns and rifles. And now, if you want to engage in the hobby, you would have to go through an FFL or a dealer, and you would have to undergo that background check. So we see that come up. Remember, that's California. That's not the entire United States.